and we haven't even started yet. But this is a real joy and a tremendous pleasure to be in this space. For some of you, perhaps it's the first time to visit Ezra Stiles College. Perhaps some of you live here. But this is the underground Crescent Theater, and we're very indebted to Master Steve Pitty, Stiles and Morse College, who gave us the space to use for this Fireside Chat. Typically, we run this series in our home on 442 Temple Street, corner of Trumbull, where we hold this series really to think about some of the key issues that are most interesting to us when we do our work on the ground in China. And our work has gone through 113 years of transformation in the areas of education, health, and the arts. And we're really delighted to be here, especially on the cusp of a trip that I'm going to be taking with my Senior Program Officer for the Arts, Andy Lin, and if I may identify Mary Lou Oleski in the audience, Executive Director of the International Festival for Arts and Ideas. We'll be going out next week for a 2-week trip and visiting and attending the Shanghai Arts Festival and really thinking a lot about what does a U.S.-China arts partnership and relationship look like. So this is really a very special moment for us. Gary Lucas is in the house. And we are so thrilled and honored to have him here. And also we have the wonderful Sally Kwok and Maggie Mo joining us as well. And Gary Lucas, as many of you have probably known, is a Grammy-nominated guitarist. He has toured to over 40 countries. This work that we're going to talk about today and hear clips from is from his Edge of Heaven work that was actually debuted 10 years ago and has gotten rave reviews. Gary, just to let you know the company you're in this afternoon, he has been called one of the best guitarists in the world, if I'm not mistaken, by a Rolling Stone, and also has played with a number of different major artists and also has been in 20 acclaimed solo albums in multiple genres. So he doesn't do Shanghai jazz every day of the week, just maybe on Thursdays when he's in New Haven, but in some other places as well. But it's really an honor to have him here. And he is returning to Yale. He's a 1974 graduate, J.E., Jonathan Edwards, and he is really delighted to be back here. I said, what did you enjoy about your Yale College experience? And he said, I just want to do music and arts and film. And we are so honored that he could come back here today to share a little bit of his work that he's been working on from the days in which he was here. So this is really a pleasure and honor to have him. Let me quickly introduce also our other guests. Sally Kwok may be very familiar to many of you in the room. She is an actress, has appeared in many, many different movies. She was a finalist in the Miss Hong Kong pageant, a fashion model, but above and beyond all that, she's an entrepreneur. She's a businesswoman and has launched a number of endeavors and is currently based in Shanghai, though was born and raised in Taiwan, and also then moved to Hong Kong. So we're delighted to have Sally Kwok here. And then also Maggie Mo. I think Maggie Mo is really typifying what we hope to do in the U.S.-China relationship for Yale-China and its partners, to really think about the budding artists that are coming out of China today. And what can we do to really introduce their art, their gifts to the U.S. and also to bring them here, potentially in residence in New Haven. But Maggie Mo is 24 years old. She's a graduate student at the Shanghai Conservatory of Music. She's a very prominent musical. She appeared in many musicals and actually won the grand prize, the gold prize, for vocal music in the Chinese Hope Star competition, which is a really renowned competition. I thought how we would run this today is really make this a little bit interactive. What I hope to do is right now invite Gary and Sally and Maggie to give you a flavor of the work that they've been working on. And tomorrow, I just want to let you know, they're performing it to a sold-out concert at BAM. So this is a real special treat for this audience today. So why don't we, let's warm up the room a little bit. We want you to pay attention, gather your questions, and then we'll get into conversation. But before that, Gary Lucas, Maggie Mo, Sally Kwok, Edge of Heaven.
is called a pair of new flowers. In Chinese, say 新对花. In the old days, men and women are more conservative. When they try to date somebody, they have to come up with excuse to approach. This lady, this guy approached this lady. So what he did is they actually went to this flower garden, and then he approached this lady and said, "Hey, lady, do you know what is special flower in January?" She answered, "Well, this is flower." And I said, "Oh, okay, what about February? What kind of flower in February? Blossom in February?" And they kind of get into conversation that went on and on until from January all the way to June. That's what the song about. And the tune is so cheerful, it gets used to sing in some sort of special festival, especially Chinese New Year, the tune. This original tune is from Mongolia and get used by many different styles of singing. This particular style of singing is from original, sang by Zhou Xun and her first husband. It's called 新对花, a pair of new flowers. And I do the male part. But today, it's quite difficult with a microphone on the hand. Okay.
Still the mahjong game.
The mahjong game. The mahjong, the mahjong game? It's one of the leisure time the Chinese, the game played, most. Apparently, this researchers say that if you play mahjong all the time, you train your brain so you avoid getting Alzheimer's when you get old age. I believe so. So this mahjong game is like as my neighbors, and there's an old guy and there's a young girl, they're neighbors, and they play mahjong, and he's always teasing her during this game, and she gets very, very angry, and he's like, so stunned by her beauty, so he kind of forgot how to play the game, and this is a little story, fun story about it, and I'll do a male part as well. guys apologize all the way through the game because he's like so stunned by her pretty and he forgot to do everything. And she said, well, what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you not playing properly?
No, I think 我觉得他应该是欺负他。
Let's do a Fun Without You.
Okay. The next song to bring to you is Even Without You. The two songs that we did is Zhou Xuan, the female part is by Zhou Xuan. The male part, the two pairs flowers, is by Zhou Xuan, the husband. And the second one is by the guy.
Yes, I'd better introduce this.
Actually,
Yeah.
the whole crux of this arrangement of songs by George and by one. That's and Sally was a beautiful archetypal figure to play the Baiguan role.
谢谢。
Baiguan, if you know Chinese pop, had a low, sexy, earthy quality about her. Taiwanese journalists referred to her as the Mae West of China. And Maggie is playing the Zhou Xuan role. She's very much the sweet, girlish, ingenue type. And I scientifically selected the two of them for this project when I initiated it.
Your Yale degree helped.
Yes. I had a lot of experience with Chinese women in 1974. And it's another story. I was sent by the Holland Festival to Amsterdam, based in Amsterdam, to Shanghai during World Expo 2010 to do auditions at the Central Dramatic Arts Academy. And before that, I met Sally's husband, Andrew Bull, on a Skype chat in a roundabout way. I'm very good friends with Gong Li's manager, Christoph Zhang. And he referred me to Andrew as someone who was making very interesting music in China. And Andrew said, well, my wife Sally could really sing in this thing. You know, she's been singing in a nightclub here called Chinatown China. So I auditioned her over Skype and she was very good. And then when I arrived, I went to see I ran auditions at the Dramatic Arts Academy, and there were fantastic candidates there. Every one of them I thought was outstanding.
It's about 10 of them.
Who could really sing the hell out of these songs. And
It was a hard
it
decision.
was hard, but Maggie had the perfect embodiment of the spirit I was trying to go for. And how I got involved in this music is an interesting story in itself. I graduated from Yale in '74, and then in 1975 found myself in Taipei. Also was a roundabout, by way of roundabout story. And I started to work a lot in nightclubs there, myself playing guitar and interacting with Chinese musicians. And I had many adventures. I backed up a famous movie star there while I was there, who was quite popular at the time, who loved to sing Joni Mitchell songs. We performed on TV in Taiwan together. And then I had a romantic entanglement with a lady who later became my first wife, a woman named Ling Ling, who actually now manages Zhang Ji, if you know the famous actress, considered by many to be the top movie star in China. And she played me this music, which I fell in love with. She had tapes of Zhou Xuan and Baiguan from old '78 recordings. This music that we're doing flourished, as you may know, in the nightclub and dancehall scene, and also the early Shanghai sound film industry, and swept not only China, but all over where overseas Chinese congregated. They know these songs, many to this day, young and old. And they're, to me, a fascinating example of a great fusion music, I hate that word, as they combine the best of Western swing and jazz and Broadway styles with Chinese influences. And the fact is, many European musicians fleeing communism and Nazism and fascism found a haven in Shanghai between the wars. because it was a free port and you could get in and out without a passport. And many of these musicians, many jazz musicians, found work in the studios and also nightclub, dance band orchestras. And they're on a lot of these early recordings. What was particularly interesting to me on the first trip I took to Shanghai to work with these two great singers was being taken by Andrew Bull to what is now a Spanish restaurant in Shanghai. It was the recording studio of Pathé.
Got a machine.
They still have the cutting lathe in plexiglass in front of the restaurant.
Yeah.
Although there's a hole in the plexiglass and it's slowly rusting away. Somebody at Yale should endow a preservation. So anyway, and we went to the Paramount Ballroom together, where Joshua Nabagon used to perform, and it's still active with tea dances, all sorts of activities. So anyway, that is how I came to work with them, and I love to play this music with such fine singers and nice people.
The song I bring to you is the original song by Maggie. It's called Even Without You. 如果没有你 Even without you, how can I live? Without you, my head go haywire. I can't focus, I can't work. That's what the song about. 天涯歌女 This is one of a very special song, came from that era, sang original by Zhou Xuan, and the movie also played by her as a leading role. It's a theme song from the movie The Angel on the Street. It is telling the story, also reflect the situation in those days. The property is really suffering. People can't really live properly, and this young girl who has a skill to sing, eventually they in the street singing, begging a few bucks here and there to try to make it. But a lot of them eventually leading to a really tragedy, like fate, like go back to like an ancient profession, like being a prostitute, There's a story about this girl. She's not quite yet, but you can see it in the future. It's 天涯歌女. Hope you like it. 'That original sang by Zhou Xuan, and it's still very popular all this year up to today. Once you sing the song, you know it's the Ocean High, this is Zhou Xuan. It's so typical.
Let's do the wall.
The war, okay.
Maggie.
And this is one of a special song by Maggie. It's called The War. It's telling the story about a lady who, in the ladies nowadays, they don't get out freely like nowadays. We're lucky. All they can do is stay home and look through the window. They're trapped inside the four walls, thinking like how great in the world outside, how beautiful, but I can't go out. All I can do is that like feeling sad and waiting for my man to come home. Called The War. Australia is about. The war.
Let's take a break, and Nancy can
Great.
have you.
Yeah, this,
Let's do that.
so what I'm not, this is so exciting for Yale-China to host Gary Lucas and Sally Kwok and Maggie. This is exactly the kind of potential I think we see in terms of collaboration between American and Chinese, and Gary just like lives it every single day. And that's why he's such an inspiration to Yale-China for us to really pursue our arts initiative. I have a question, I'll start it off, but please think about your questions, and then we'll have a little Q&A with Maggie, Sally, and Gary, and then we'll hear a little bit more, and then we'll wrap up at around 5:30. But Gary, you mentioned a little bit about the inspiration for Edge of Heaven, more on a personal basis, but also less so on a professional basis. You're displaying some amazing guitar playing right here, and even the shrills that sort of mimic some of the traditional Shanghai music. Can you talk a little bit about how you came to this arrangement?
Okay, well, I was commissioned by my friend who was marrying a Yale friend of mine, actually. He used to sing in a group here. Was marrying his Chinese sweetheart in New York, and he said, for a wedding gift, would you please arrange 3 of these songs of Joshua and Baiguan? He was very hip to them. Actually, when I came back from Taiwan with my ex-wife, Ling, we turned as many people as we could onto this music. It wasn't that widely known, of course, by Westerners, and most people embrace it. Unfortunately, if you tell most Western people I'm playing Chinese music, they instantly think of Chinese opera, and they don't think it's something they're going to like. They find that kind of harsh on the ear, but I like it. Nevertheless, we did make a lot of converts, including a guy I used to work with, a rock avant-garde visionary who went under the name Captain Beefheart. In fact, I played at the Toad's Place club with him in 1980. Anyway, he loved it. And we opened our concerts with Joshua and Baiguan on the PA as people would file into the theaters. Anyway, so they commissioned this as a wedding gift, and I applied myself as I normally do with any music that I do, which is I filter it to my own sensibilities, which are basically, honestly, American roots, blues and folk music. These are my roots. And I use a lot of open tunings on the guitar, where the guitar is tuned to an open chord. And because this allows you to get often orchestral styles going that are very difficult to achieve, if not impossible, in normal standard guitar tuning. You can really hear it, I think, on my albums. And I have The Edge of Heaven here. This was the summation of my early work in Joshua and Baiguan genre. And I licensed it to a French government-sponsored label in 2001. I was honored to be one of only 3 American artists on this label. The majority of artists were either French or African. It was a world music and jazz label, Label Bleu, sadly defunct. Anyway, the album is now licensed to the Knitting Factory label out of New York. When the record came out, it represented all of my work, as I mentioned, up to that point. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Going back to the show I did in Chinatown at the wedding of my friends, it was really a success. They flew the mother's family from Hong Kong in, and a whole entourage of people. And I got to perform in a banquet hall, a wedding palace in Chinatown. People really were enthusiastic, so I began to put this music into my concert repertoire. And then I put it on an early album of mine, and people quite liked it. Then I was commissioned to do a whole record by a small label in New York. They went out of business. I was sitting on the tapes when this French label came along. And it came out right, I was in Paris on 9/11, actually, promoting the record. Despite the competition, the World Trade Center incident, the record managed to get to #1 on the world music charts in Canada, and in France it was picked as one of the albums of the year in their Libération newspaper and many magazines. It was played on France Inter. This is a government radio station. Very difficult to get on it if you're a foreign artist. So I thought I was doing something right by working with this music, and I personally liked it.
Thanks, Gary. And maybe a question for Sally and Maggie before I open it up. 1930 Shanghai was a very complex period of time in Chinese history. Racier, sexier, if you may, and a lot of foreign influences. I'm wondering, how do you see living in China today, in Shanghai? What is the contrast and comparison, and how well received is a 1930 Shanghai jazz?
Shanghai was regarded as a Paris of the East in those days, and still is. And there's a song called Night in Shanghai. It's basically telling about the Shanghai like sleepless city, because the entertainment business is huge, nightclubs. That's why a lot of like the song that we do is actually widely sang in the nightclubs. Like Night in Shanghai, Songstress Flowers, Songstress of Tia Gurney, I forgot, Angel, that's Angel on the Street, the theme songs. And the couple of songs I did for the couple of songs I do for Bai Guang, especially Bai Guang, because a lot of her song is very blues, swing, jazzy, you know. So why her name called Bai Guang? Bai Guang in Chinese is called white light. It's just like a radiant white light, you know, shoots through people's heart, because she is quite an ultimate, like a representative in the pop scene in those days. And because the songs are popular, up to now still popular. And Bai Guang lived up to 1999, passed away. Her last appearance was in 1997 in Hong Kong. She received a Lifetime Achievement Awards in Hong Kong, and then she went back to Kuala Lumpur. 2 years later, she passed away. After she retired, she lived in Kuala Lumpur the rest of her life. And Zhou Xuan, unfortunately, she died very young, in her 30s. Died of heartbroken, because she didn't have a very smooth, love affair. And talking about Shanghai, it's a very cosmopolitan city. That's why in those days, you have all this very, very happening, like actress, movie industry is really happening, and also musical scene, entertainment, so you have movie, music, and unfortunately, the war break out. And the Civil War break out, the Kuomintang and communism, the two against each other. So everything like get shut down. And that's why it also affected Zhou Xuan quite a lot. A lot of artists, especially her, she was so huge at the time.
我说，但是周璇是当时的Golden Voice， 对，是没有人可以超越。
She's like her voice so special. She was regarded golden voice of the whole China, still is so special that kind of irreplaceable. And she done over 100 songs, and those songs still get sang ever since then and now. And that's why I also later on in the 70s, late 70s, early 80s, there's another singer born and raised in Taiwan called Teresa Tan. In those days, Taiwan and China still don't talk to each other. We have a Big Dan and Little Dan. Little Dan is Teresa Tan from Taiwan, the Big Dan is Deng Xiaoping from China. So we were saying that who is going to actually, rule China? Is it Little Dan or Big Dan? It's quite an interesting saying. But by saying that, Teresa's song was so hugely popular in China and whole Southeast Asia as well. A couple of her really, really popular songs was actually originally sang by Zhou Xuan. And Teresa redo it later in her time, and was also received very well, hugely popular.
Thank you so much. And why don't I open up, maybe we'll take 3 or 4 questions from the audience. I don't know if it's easy to turn on the house lights, but I can relay the questions. Anything for Gary or Maggie or Sally? Thank you.
Don't be shy.
Yeah, don't be shy. You can ask.
If you're shy, we won't be very shy. she's more mature, sexy, bluey. And Zhou Xuan, because the voice and the style is more like the little girl from the next door, you know. So we have a completely different style of singing, and it's a big contrast. But these two ladies also represent that time, the era. There's a lot of singers, like performers, but these two are particular, so happening, very well received all over China. And even I was born and raised in Taiwan, I get to hear this song when I was a child. I grew up with the songs.
But now my major is musical theater. So I study pop and opera and traditional Chinese music.
And also Maggie's background, she's a study and now she's getting her master's degree in Shanghai. Is the Conservatory of Music in Shanghai, and she also do the stage play, musical play. And she also plays Zhou Xuan part.
Yes,
in China, in Shanghai. Yeah.
Another question from the audience. Thank you for that. Yeah, see.
I was Gary. Is the instrument you have there? Is that fashioned to be more traditional, to be able to produce more traditional Chinese music? And do you also play anything like the pipa or any of the other?
No, I'm a specialist in guitar. And this is an old Gibson J45 from 1946.
It's not made in China.
Oh no. But there's nothing wrong. Jarrell guitars, Philip Jarrell guitars, great. I endorse it. He's an American living in China and manufacturing guitars. But I string this differently for each song in order to produce the arrangements. As I mentioned, open tunings, SAUs really light gauge strings. I can bend the strings to mimic the slur of the vocal melismatic lines. And actually, to me, there is a connection. I would classify myself more or less as a blues guitarist, insofar as like pretty much everything that I play as a blues element, even my arrangements of Wagner and Dvorak, Smetana, and my original music. And I think Chinese music has affinities, not just because of their pentatonic scales, but in a lot of the vocal effects that the singers produce. There's a wailing and a keening sound of joy or unhappiness in these songs. And I think this exemplifies a universal human struggle. And I think that it's that element to me is like the music that excites me the most when I hear it. I like to hear a human struggling through their instruments, and I like to hear singers who can bend notes, you know, because to me that really, the spirit lives in the spaces between the black and the white keys in the piano.
Love that. Maggie, I have a question for you. You're 24 years old, as your bio shares. How about your peers? Those in China, young people in their 20s. What do they think about this music? And do they receive it?
我认为我在同龄的人里面呢，大家都知道这些音乐，但是呢，可能比较少的人会就是去唱，但是也有一些，比如说天涯歌女啊、夜上海啊，还有我们那个都是经常唱的，然后是属于比较经典的歌曲，然后也都唱，然后是接收的新的东西也有，自己的东西也有。其实，怎么说呢？我觉得这是一个比较高的一个那种艺术的那种一个那个怎么说个 level 所以说我是很喜欢的。
Although she's in her 20s, among her group, they all know the song. They all know the song. And personally, she felt that the particular couple song we just did, the one 天涯歌女 and the one I just did, Even Without You, is the cover of this. Regardless, like really how do you call that? Is a label never fade. People all know about it. And people who do the song, regardless in this musical industry, is slightly higher level. It's not like any commercial, normal commercial songs you do. So that's why she got her interested to get involved in this project as well.
Well, if we don't have any more questions, why don't we listen to some more music, Gary? And we'd love to hear a bit more, and then maybe open it up to some final questions.
I'm pausing.
If we can dim the lights.
疯狂世界 That World, also sang by Zhou Xuan. My understanding of the lyric, the story is this lady, she kind of not going smooth in her love affair in her life, and this whole emotion has driven her quite crazy. She won't stop the bird stops, won't stop bird singing, won't stop flower, blossom. This is what the song about, the Mad World, 疯狂世界.
Should we do pretense?
Pretense. Pretense is 假正经. He also telling the story about a guy actually has an eye on a lady, but too reserved and too pretend, not willing to address his feeling. But this lady picked it up and she said, well, if you really like me, if you want me, show it to me, tell me, but don't pretend nothing, is going on. That's what the song about. 圣咏唱白白光。
Spring song then.
Zhongshan is a mountain zone. It's located in It's located in the Nanjing city. The first paragraph of the lyrics is describing the beautiful scenery in Zhou Mountain in southern China. The second paragraph of the lyrics is putting a little bit of the so-called patriotism. Yeah, because the writer is a patriot, and it's written in 1941 during the wartime. Japanese was invading China, especially Nanjing. So the whole Nanjing city is really down and really sad. So this song basically trying to cheer for everybody, say look up a better tomorrow and morale up. And it was very, very popular in the whole Nanjing, and it was popular, so popular it also the song went to Taiwan as well. So I actually listened to the song growing up. Mountain Zhou, Zhongshan. go on one path, go to work in the morning, it's for the people, for the traffic. On the way home, choose another path, lonely, in silence. It's also reflecting the mood of people in their state. It's helpless, but you got no choice but moving on.
在白天走的一条路上，只看着星光，只看见车辆。我带着跳跃的心，我望着你向前冲。在晚上走的一条路上，只看见灯光，只看见月亮。我带着空虚的心，冷冷清清向前往。这条路是太凄凉，那条路也太清澈，找不到更好的地方。我天天在这两条路上。在白天走的一条路上，只看见星光，只看见车辆。我带着跳跃的心，慌慌张张向前冲。在晚上走的一条路上，只看见灯光，只看见月亮。我带着空虚的心，冷冷清清向前往。这条路是太凄凉，那条路也太清澈，找不到更好的地方。我天天在这两条路上。
Okay, Moon Street is a sad song. 街头乐 it is telling a story. A mother and a young daughter, they begging the street by letting the young daughter singing to the people who they walk by. When you look up the sky, there's a beautiful moon, but all they feel is like so cold. This is a reflection about their situation. They are in a very poverty situation, very poor, very sad. Moon on the street. 街头乐。
街头月，月如霜，冷冷地照在午夜上。街头月，月如霜，冷冷地照在午夜上。母女端落走街坊，饥寒交迫只得歌唱，唱呀唱，唱呀唱，唱不尽悲欢离合。痛惆怅，唱不尽悲伤，痛惆怅。
about a lady memorized her past, her views, faded away with time, and she can't do anything about it. And also this song is special because singing and talking inside the song, that was quite special in those days. This is quite a representative song, and not all the songs that Bygone did. Old dreams, 回忆旧梦, pondering dreams, you can call it.
We are so excited that Gary and Maggie and Sally came to spend the afternoon with us. They are selling Support the Artist, Edge of Heaven, the CD. And also, if this excites you, this kind of collaboration, there will be these flyers about Yale-China's arts initiative and its work. We are really trying to create a real collaboration, a fellowship in New Haven, to be in partnership with the festival, with Yale Schools of Arts and Music and Drama and Architecture, and some exactly like this. This is the type of thing we want